All right, so I guess some asshole decided that you have to be the change that you want to see in the world. And right now I'm looking around, seeing all of these paperclip profile pictures of other people who also say they are sick and tired of value extraction and enshitification as a business model. Now, for me, at least, I have enabled these adversarial relationships in exchange for convenience and complacency. And that leads me to believe that in order to reject the customer is the product business model, it's time to embrace some complexity. I have an old broken laptop from college that I want to use to explore navigating that complexity. I can't stress this enough. I'm learning this as I go. I have no technical background. In fact, I have zero idea what I am talking about. But apparently, there's a whole army of Clippies out there that are willing to help me fight for sovereignty. So I wanted to document my process the best I can to at least invite others along for the ride. I don't have the luxury of time to make a polished debut video. Right now, my biggest concern is just taking some sort of action. In fact, I think if I continue to only talk with AI about this, I'm going to give myself cyberpsychosis. So I hope that you can forgive any lack of production value and sit through a cobbled together video. I'm not going to have the prose or the cohesive flow of a storyteller, but I at least wanted to attempt to engage in meaningful, non-parasocial commentary. Until recently, I was apathetic to the right to repair and data privacy concerns around big tech. So I want to start this said commentary by examining the transaction agreement that I had entered into in which I thought I was obtaining ownership of that said laptop. I exchanged monetary value in order to exercise control over the silicon and its respective hardware to be able to interact with my apps and data. The tool for said control comes from the operating system. Now, the silicon and hardware layer can have a variety of different configurations, whether it be for cost, for performance, or power consumption. There can be lots of different variables there. And ideologically, you want your operating system experience to maintain consistent across any of those variables. So the way that that consistency is achieved is through a translation layer known as the firmware that came with my said transaction. Thankfully, at the time, the market afforded me the bargaining power to demand an operating system agnostic firmware. At the time, unbeknownst to me, the manufacturer couldn't force me into their proprietary software, which is something that we see shifting with newer technologies such as smart TVs and cell phones, even vehicles. But at the time, for viability, the manufacturer needed to expose the application programming interface. This is a set of software endpoints that translates the instructions to my operating system to the silicon, which then physically performs the actions. Now, my problem is that the operating system is now end of life, which means it's no longer receiving security updates. And 12 to 15 months ago, that wouldn't have concerned me. However, this doesn't just expose my apps and my data, it also exposes the hardware, which is connected to my network, which then exposes anyone else or anything else that might be connected. This is more relevant than ever. We've got a rise in AI-assisted malware injections into supply chain attacks that hide in different software packages that even proprietary systems are built on. So now I need a new secure OS. And in this specific case, the firmware API allows me to do just that. But it starts to reveal a deeper vulnerability in the ownership that I thought I had. What if they didn't provide that API? What if the manufacturer had locked the bootloader? Then the hardware that I am physically in possession of becomes nothing more than a paperweight. Its utility gets revoked by a corporate decision and completely eliminates any illusion of ownership. So, in order to retain sovereignty, I need to be able to control the firmware itself. And that led me to learning about an open source software called Coreboot, in which I could, regardless of what the manufacturer decided to do with their firmware, regain access and control to the silicon. But of course, there's a catch. The CPU in my laptop has a thing called a boot guard, which means I can only use the firmware that comes from the manufacturer, and it's enforced, from my understanding, cryptographically through fuses on the motherboard, which means I could irreversibly brick my laptop by messing with it. So true ownership at the deepest level is blocked currently. Now, given this reality, I can't replace the black box that is the firmware, and it's not advisable for me to go installing software willy-nilly without knowing what I'm doing. So therefore, what I need to do is introduce an air gap between the operating system and the firmware. This will be achieved through a virtualization handled by a technology called a hypervisor. The most popular open source option is a program called Proxmox. It has a centrally governed and company-backed model, which is similar to the firmware issue that we had just discussed. It creates a single point of failure, which has historically been a weakness. We've seen it with Oracle's acquisition of Sun Microsystem, effectively eliminating Open Solaris. So therefore, it's in my best interest to prioritize community-driven alternatives. Which leads us to the Zen project. As the core hypervisor, we'll also need to be using a technology QEMO for emulation of any other peripheries outside of the core from the Zen project. In this same vein of community-driven, I need a way to orchestrate these technologies on the laptop. So I need an operating system that is community-driven, and that leads me to Debian. As a pragmatic choice over the more philosophically aligned Arch or Gentoo distributions. This path, while not the easiest, is the most transparent resistance to big tech that I think is available right now. And the next part comes the hard part, the work. I'm going to do the best I can to document every step, every mistake, every discovery in a detailed post that will be on my website. The process is going to take some time because that's the point. I'm choosing deliberate effort over convenience, but I wanted to get something started and get some feedback and get something moving, and post a link back here whenever I can. And now, with my thought process documented, the next step is to go from abstract theory to physical action. I'm going to use my desktop to create a bootable Debian file on disk drive here. and turn this little piece of planned obsolescence into an inquiry of the limits of a consumer's digital sovereignty. In the next video, you'll see me do just that. We'll work through the process. You're going to see me make mistakes. It's going to be messy, but hopefully we can learn together.